This is a really exciting lesson for me because in this lesson I'm going to give you the next piece that goes on top of everything we've been learning. And this is the step that opens the doors to all of the sounds of our musical system. With just one new concept, we're going to unlock the entire world of harmony, and you're going to be able to go into that world and explore it for yourself. This new concept that we're going to study today is what I call the IFR tonal map. And this is a visual map of the sounds in any key. And literally every musical sound you've ever heard in your life is located somewhere on this map. Even the notes that are outside the key of the music are right there on your tonal map drawing. And so this simple little drawing is a map of the entire tonal universe. And we can use this map to understand harmony, to understand the sounds in the music all around us, and to express the sounds that we imagine. And so in today's lesson, we're going to learn how to project this tonal map anywhere on the fretboard so that we can begin working with the sounds of our musical system. We'll start by building the tonal map on a single string. If I start here at the first fret of the A string, let's make this our note 1. Now to move up to note 2, we just have to think about our tonal map drawing, and we see that there's a whole step between notes 1 and 2. On the guitar, that translates to 2 frets. So if note 1 is under my index finger, that means note 2 will be here under my ring finger. Then to go from note 2 to note 3, we need another whole step, so that's 2 more frets. That's already beyond my reach, so I'm going to shift up into a new position and play note 3 with my index finger. Then from note 3 to note 4, again looking at our tonal map drawing, we see that that's just a half step. On the guitar, that's just 1 fret, and so note 4 will be right here under my middle finger. Then from note 4 to note 5, we need another whole step. That's 2 more frets. I'll play that with my pinky. From 5 to 6, I need another whole step. So that's 2 more frets. This time I'll shift up and play that with my index finger. From note 6 to note 7, I need another whole step. That's 2 more frets. And then finally from note 7 to note 1, that's just a half step. So that's just 1 more fret. Descending now, 1, half step down to 7, whole step down to 6, whole step down to 5, I'll shift down for that, whole step down to 4, now it's just a half step down to 3, whole step down to 2, and 1 final whole step down to note 1. And just like everything else you've learned about the guitar, this works everywhere on the fretboard. So this has nothing to do with that particular key that we were just playing in. We could place our note 1 anywhere, and the intervals on our tonal map drawing will always be the same. So for example, I could place my note 1 here at the 2nd fret of the B string. And if we make that our note 1, then to move up to note 2, we just need a whole step. That's 2 frets. Then from 2 to 3, we need another whole step. That's 2 more frets. From 3 to 4 is a half step. That's just 1 fret. From 4 to 5, that's a whole step. We need 2 frets. From 5 to 6 is another whole step. That's 2 more frets. From 6 to 7 is another whole step. That's 2 more frets. And then from 7 to 1, I just need 1 final half step. And so this works on any string of the guitar starting from any fret. And now if we combine this new understanding of our tonal map with what we know about half step and whole step mobility jumps for going across the strings, then we can truly project the notes of any key across the entire fretboard. And so this would be a great moment to just quickly review our half step and whole step mobility jumps going across each pair of strings. For example, from the low E string, just take a moment to review your half step mobility jump and your whole step mobility jump. The A string to the D string, half step, whole step. From the D string to the G string, your half step and your whole step. Then in the special zone, from the G string to the B string, our half step and our whole step. And then the highest 2 strings are normal strings again, so our half step and our whole step. And then we can also review all of these movements descending from the high E string. These are normal strings, so for the half step, we're going to shift up a fret. And the whole step is what our hand naturally gives us, just going from the index to the pinky. From the B string, this is the special zone. So this is the one place where the half step is what my hand naturally gives me, and the whole step doesn't even require the full span of my left hand. And from the G string, these are normal strings again, so for the half step, we're going to shift up a fret. And for the whole step, it's what our hand naturally gives us, just going from the index to the pinky. From the D string, for the half step, we'll shift up a fret, but not for the whole step. And from the A string, for the half step, we'll shift up a fret, and not for the whole step. And so now we can combine our new understanding of the tonal map with the ability that we already had to move freely all around the fretboard by either half steps or whole steps. And the thing to keep in mind is just to give yourself the time to think through both parts of this process. Wherever we happen to be in the key of the music, to decide where to go next, the first thing we need to do is to visualize our tonal map drawing and to think about whether that next interval that we need is a half step or a whole step. Then we want to return our focus to the fretboard and calmly think through what we need to do to execute that movement. So let's go through the process together. We'll start this time from the 4th fret of the A string, and I'll make this my note 1. From note 1 to note 2, I need a whole step, so that's 2 frets, placing note 2 under my ring finger. Then from note 2 to note 3, I need another whole step, so that's 2 more frets. That's beyond my reach. This time I'll shift up and play that note 3 with my pinky finger. Then from note 3 to note 4, I just need a half step. On the guitar, that's just 1 fret, but I'm going to take this opportunity to do the half step mobility jump, placing note 4 under my index finger on the D string. From note 4 to note 5, that's a whole step, so 2 more frets. From 5 to 6, that's another whole step. So that's 2 more frets. This time I'll shift up for that and play note 6 with my pinky finger. From note 6 to note 7, I need another whole step. I'm going to do that as the whole step mobility jump, placing note 7 under my index finger on the G string. And then from note 7 to note 1, I just need 1 final half step. That's just 1 fret. So that's under my middle finger. Let's keep going. From note 1 to note 2 in the next octave now. That's a whole step, so 2 more frets. From note 2 to note 3, that's another whole step. So I need 2 more frets on this string, or I could do the whole step mobility jump from the G string to the B string. From note 3 to note 4, that's just a half step, so that's just 1 more fret. From note 4 to note 5, that's a whole step. That's 2 frets. I'll shift up for that. From note 5 to note 6, that's a whole step. This time I'll do the whole step mobility jump, placing note 6 on the high E string. Then from note 6 to note 7, it's another whole step, so that's 2 frets. And from note 7 to note 1, that's 1 final half step, so that's just 1 fret. Now let's look at another example. This time we'll start a little higher on the fretboard and we'll start out descending. I'm going to start here at the 8th fret of the B string. I'm going to play this note with my pinky finger, and that's going to be my note 1. To move down from note 1 to note 7, that's just a half step, so that'll be just 1 fret lower on the B string under my ring finger. From note 7 down to note 6, that's a whole step, so that's 2 frets. From note 6 down to note 5, that's a whole step. I'm in the special zone, so it's that special whole step mobility jump that doesn't even require the full span of my left hand. From note 5 down to note 4, that's a whole step, that's 2 frets. From note 4 down to note 3 is just a half step. This time I'm going to shift down a fret and play note 3 with my index finger as well. From note 3 down to note 2, that's a whole step. I'll do this as the whole step mobility jump, playing note 2 with my pinky finger on the D string. And from note 2 down to note 1, it's a final whole step, that's 2 frets. Let's keep going. From note 1 down to note 7 is a half step. From From 7 down to 6 is a whole step. We'll do that as a mobility jump. From 6 down to 5 is a whole step. From 5 down to 4 is a whole step. I'll shift down for that. From 4 down to 3 is a half step. I'll do that as a half step mobility jump. From 3 down to 2 is a whole step. And from 2 down to 1 is a whole step. And so as you can see, you don't have to try to keep track of my fingering here. You don't have to remember the exact routes that I'm taking around the fretboard. We are not just trying to accumulate a bunch of scale drawings here. We don't need scale drawings anymore. Because with an understanding of harmony, of what harmony is and where it comes from, what are these notes and what are the intervals between the notes on our tonal map, we can now project this harmonic system anywhere on the fretboard and we can navigate around freely. And just to drive that point home, this time let's start on a note that's not note 1. For example, I'm going to go now to the 7th fret of the D string. I'm going to play this note with my index finger. And let's call this our note 3. We're going to imagine that we are on note 3 of the key of the music. And we're going to go ascending from here. From note 3 to note 4, that's a half step, so that's going to be just 1 fret higher. And that's note 4. From note 4 to note 5, I need a whole step, that's 2 frets higher. From note 5 to note 6, that's a whole step. I'm going to do this as the whole step mobility jump. From 6 to 7 is another whole step, that's 2 frets higher. And from 7 to 1 is a half step, that's just 1 fret higher. And now, because we've arrived at note 1, this is the note F, we can now say that we've been playing in the key of F the whole time during this latest example, if that's important to you. But notice that we didn't need to know that in order to navigate perfectly well through the notes of this key. Just knowing where we are in the key of the music enables us to see where all the other notes of the key are located. And so this is the paradigm shift that I am proposing in this lesson, that the question is no longer, what key are we in? The real question is, where in the key am I? As long as I know that, as long as I can hear that, as long as I can feel where I am in the key of the music, I can see where all the other notes on the musical landscape are located. And that's why we don't need scale drawings. What we're developing with this practice is a skill, and it's the ability to project tonality directly onto the fretboard wherever we may happen to be. And we don't have to put any effort at all into memorizing where we found the notes, because in the next moment, we may choose to find the exact same note in a different place. For example, going back to where we just were together a moment ago, playing this note 1 with our pinky finger on the G string, let's go back down through some of those same notes, but this time we'll take a different route. From note 1 down to note 7, that's a half step, so that's just 1 fret. From note 7 down to note 6, that's a whole step, so that's 2 frets. From 6 down to 5, that's another whole step, so that's 2 more frets. This time I'll shift down and play note 5 down here. From 5 down to 4, that's another whole step, so 2 more frets. And from note 4 down to note 3, that's just a half step, so that's just 1 fret. I'll shift down and play note 3 here. And notice this is the exact same pitch, note 3, on which we started the exercise. But before we were playing note 3 here. The exact same note. It's in multiple places on the fretboard. And so what we're doing with this new practice is not about just generating a bunch of scale drawings using our tonal map understanding and then memorizing these scale drawings. What we want to practice is the ability to navigate freely around the fretboard, just using what we understand about half steps and whole steps and the tonal map. And a great way to start your practicing is to return to a concept that we talked about in an earlier lesson about just throwing ourselves into the ocean, playing any note at random. And we said that means any string, any fret, any finger on your left hand. Well, now there's a piece we can add to that, which is to make that note any note on your tonal map drawing. And so a great way to start your practicing is to just choose any note at random on the fretboard, playing with any finger, and then just imagine yourself to be somewhere on your tonal map. Let's imagine that we're on note 6. And let's say we want to go ascending from here. Well, what's the interval from note 6 to note 7? That's a whole step. we're in the special zone, and so I need that special whole step mobility jump to take me up to note 7. But then from the moment I arrive to note 7, I can already let go of my knowledge of where note 6 was. I don't need that anymore, because if I want to go back down to note 6, I know how to do that. I know that that's a whole step, and I know how to do that on the fretboard. So for example, from note 7, if I want to go down a whole step to note 6 again, maybe this time I'll go down 2 frets on the same string. And I'll play note 6 this way. From note 6, going up a whole step to note 7. Then I need another half step to go up to note 1. But coming down, maybe I'll play note 1 this way, come down a half step to note 7, and now the whole step mobility jump to note 6. Or from note 6, going up a whole step to note 7, 2 frets this way, and now the half step mobility jump to note 1. 1, half step mobility jump down to 7, whole step down to 6. Or 6, whole step to 7, half step to 1. 1, half step to 7, whole step mobility jump to 6. This is the skill that we're learning, to be able to project tonality directly on the fretboard wherever we may happen to be. And this is the last lesson where we're going to be giving our full attention to just moving around the musical landscape. In the very next lesson, we're going to start working with the sounds of our musical system. We're going to begin a series of creative exercises that I call 7 worlds, where we're going to be exploring the 7 harmonic environments of the major scale. We're going to be learning about the 7 chords of the major scale. We're going to be jamming over backing tracks and learning to express ourselves musically with all of these sounds. And so I invite you to take your time and really enjoy this moment and just enjoy getting comfortable moving freely all around the fretboard of your guitar by the notes of your tonal map.